Welcome back to Acing AP Biology. In this lesson, we will go over the pedigree and human genetic disorders. The pedigree is a family tree that shows the relationships between parents and children over generations and displays the inheritance of a specific phenotype. A few things to keep in mind are that if it is a dominant trait, it exists in every generation. If it is a recessive trait, it skips generations. If the phenotype is expressed primarily in males, the gene exists on the sex chromosome. If not, it is expressed on the autosomal or non-sex chromosome. Now let's look at a diagram of the pedigree for the phenotype of the widow's peak in the hairline. As you can see by the pedigree, widow's peak is dominant because the phenotype appears in every generation. The squares are males and the circles are females. The oldest generation is on the left and the youngest is on the right for one row. The AP exam may ask you to figure out the genotype for an individual in the pedigree. To do this, use the previous generations and conduct a Punnett square to figure out potential genotypes. For instance, in this case, we know the daughter of these parents has a widow's peak. So she can either be homozygous dominant or heterozygous. Now let's look over some recessively inherited disorders. Defective alleles code for dysfunctional protein or no protein at all, causing damaging effects on the body. Because the defect exists in the recessive allele, those with the heterozygous genotype for this gene act as carriers for the recessive allele, but the allele is not expressed due to complete dominance. In fact, most people who suffer from recessive alleles have normal parents who are carriers. Some recessively inherited disorders include cystic fibrosis, where chloride pumps in the plasma membrane become dysfunctional. Some recessively inherited disorders include cystic fibrosis, where chloride pumps in the plasma membrane become dysfunctional. Tay-Sachs disease, where brain cells in babies are not able to break down lipids due to dysfunctional enzymes, so lipid builds up in the brain. And also sickle cell anemia, which we have talked about previously, where one substitution known as a point mutation leads to the production of abnormal red blood cells. In dominantly inherited disorders, the defect exists in the dominant allele. Achondroplasia, or dwarfism, affects people who are heterozygous for the gene. People who are homozygous dominant will not survive at birth. Normal individuals are homozygous recessive. Huntington's disease is another example. It is a delayed lethal dominant, meaning that it only gets expressed when individuals reach ages 35 to 40. It is a nervous system degenerative disorder. Keep in mind that lethal dominant alleles are less common than lethal recessive because dominant alleles are always expressed phenotypically and often lead to the death of the embryo. That's it for this lesson. In the next video, we will discuss the chromosomal theory of inheritance. See you then. For more bio content, hit subscribe.